It was a quiet night in the city. Rain gently tapped against the windows of Ethan's small house. The street was empty, the lights outside dim and foggy. Ethan sat on his couch, reading an old book and sipping warm tea. It had been a long day at school, and he was finally relaxing. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Ethan looked up, surprised. It was midnight. Who would come at this hour? He waited, thinking maybe it was just the wind. But then the knock came again, slow but clear. He stood up and walked to the door. For a moment he felt unsure, but then he opened it. Standing there was a woman. She was tall, with long black hair and very pale skin. Her eyes were deep and dark, like they held 1,000 stories. She wore a long, old-fashioned coat that looked wet from the rain. But her face stayed calm, even gentle. "Please," she said softly. "May I come in?" Ethan blinked. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" "I just need shelter for the night," she said. Her voice was soft, almost musical. "I won't stay long. I promise." Ethan looked at her clothes. She had no umbrella, no bag, no phone. Something felt strange, but not dangerous. He stepped aside. "Come in." She entered slowly. Her steps were quiet, almost too quiet. Ethan closed the door behind her and offered her a towel. "Thank you," she said. He pointed toward the couch. "You can sit here. I'll make tea." She nodded. "I don't drink tea, but thank you." Ethan smiled a little, confused but kind. He made some tea for himself and sat across from her. "My name's Ethan," he said. "And you are?" She looked at him. For a moment before answering, "Cerise." "That's a unique name," Ethan said. "Are you from around here?" Cerise smiled faintly. "No, very far away." The clock ticked. The rain fell. The room was quiet again. Ethan tried to be polite, but his mind was full of questions. Who was she? Where did she come from? She out in the rain at midnight? She seemed peaceful, but different. "Do you need to call someone?" he asked. "No, there is no one to call." Her answer was simple, yet it made Ethan feel a little sad. She looked lonely. "All right," he said, "you're safe here. You can rest." Cerise looked out the window, watching the rain fall. "You are kind," she said. "Very few people would open their door to a stranger." Ethan laughed quietly. "Maybe I'm too trusting." Cerise looked back at him. "Or maybe you are." Rare. They didn't talk for a while. Ethan tried to read again, but he kept glancing at her. She sat perfectly still, not tired, not cold, not hungry. He noticed something strange. The lights flickered slightly. His clock stopped for a second, then started again. Ethan frowned. It's odd. Cerise stood up slowly. "I should go. Before others find me?" "Others." Ethan stood too. "What do you mean?" She paused. "I didn't come here by mistake. I needed a place to hide. I chose your door." Ethan's heart beat faster. "Are you in danger?" "Not yet," she said. "But they will come. They always do." "Who will come?" Cerise walked to the window and touched the glass with her fingers. "Long ago, I made a choice," she said. "A choice to protect, not to destroy. But my kind, they don't forgive such choices." Ethan's voice was quiet now. "What are you?" She turned to face him. For the first time, he saw her eyes clearly. They were glowing softly, now not in color, but in depth. Like stars in the sky. "I am not from this world," she said. "I've lived longer than your species has walked on 2 legs. Humanity grow, dream, and reach for the stars." Ethan's breath caught. He didn't know what to say. "I don't expect you to believe me," Cerise said. "But the truth is, Simply am a Selenari. Some call us vampires. But not the kind from your stories. I do not drink blood. I do not fear the sun. But I do live on life, energy light, warmth, thoughts." Ethan was silent. She looked down. "I have not taken energy from any being for hundreds of years. I choose not to. But now I am growing weaker, and they can sense it." Outside, a strange hum passed through the air. Ethan felt it in his bones. It lasted only a second. Lights flickered again. Cerise stepped closer. I don't want to bring danger to you, Ethan. If you ask me to leave, I will. He stared at her. She didn't look like a monster. She looked like someone who had suffered for a long, long time. You can stay, Ethan said. We'll figure it out. Cerise blinked. For the first time, she looked surprised. You are not afraid? She asked. I think I should be, Ethan said. But I'm more curious. She smiled. A real smile. One that showed both sadness and hope. Then thank you, she said. Truly, the rain kept falling. But now, inside that small house, a quiet story had begun, one that would soon shake the stars. The morning was cold and gray. Soft clouds covered the sky, and the streets were still wet from the night's rain. Inside the small house, Ethan stood by the kitchen window. Watching the quiet world outside, behind him, Cerise sat on the couch. She hadn't slept all night. In fact, she didn't even close her eyes. She just sat there, calm and silent, as if time did not matter to her. Ethan turned and asked, You didn't sleep? Cerise shook her head gently. I don't need to. Ethan walked over and sat down across from her. You said something last night, that you're not human, that you're called a Selenari. Cerise nodded. Yes. Ethan still couldn't believe it. She looked human. She spoke like a person. But the way she moved, the way she looked into his eyes, it was not normal. It was like she had lived for centuries. Can you explain? Ethan asked. Cerise looked at him with kind eyes. I was born far from Earth, on a world with no oceans and 2 moons. Our people lived in silence, in shadows, always watching the stars. She paused for a moment before continuing. We discovered how to travel far between suns, between galaxies. We were not evil, but we were not kind either. We took what we needed. We fed from living energy animals, plants, sometimes, other beings. Ethan sat still, listening closely. I was different, Cerise said. I saw the beauty in weaker species. I saw their dreams. Their hopes, I could not take from them anymore. She stood and walked to the window. Long ago, I came to Earth. Your kind was just beginning to stand tall. You were not strong, not fast. But you had something rare, heart. I fought for each other. You created fire, music, stories. Cerise looked up at the sky. I chose to stay. I chose to protect. I have watched your kind for a very long time. Ethan was quiet. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. She had lived through all of history. She had seen the rise and fall of empires. And yet here she was in his living room. Why tell me this now? He asked. Because I have no more time to hide, she said. My people, they are searching for me. I have refused to feed for many years, and now my strength is fading. They believe I am weak. They will try to bring me back. Core, destroy me. Ethan felt a cold feeling in his chest. Are they coming here? Cerise nodded slowly. They will come in silence. No one will see them. No one will believe it. They will not hurt the planet, unless they must. But if they find me, it will not end well. Ethan stood up. We can warn someone. Scientists? The government, no? Cerise interrupted gently. Your world is not ready. If your people knew aliens existed, it would bring fear, panic, wars, and worse. My people would see it as a threat. They would erase everything to keep balance. Ethan sat down again. His head felt full. Then what can we do? We wait, Sarah said. We prepare. There are old tools I left on this planet long ago. If I can reach them, I may protect us both. Ethan looked at her closely. Why me? Why did you choose my door? Cerise turned to him, her eyes calm but serious. Because I have watched. Many humans, she said. Some are strong, some are clever, but few are kind. Few open the door when they hear a stranger knock in the night. Ethan didn't know what to say. You are rare, Ethan, she added. That matters more than strength. For a moment, there was silence again. Then Cerise touched her coat and pulled out a small silver object. It was shaped like a coin, but glowed faintly. She handed it to Ethan. What is this? He asked. A memory key, Cerise said. It holds knowledge from my people, but only I can unlock it. Still, you should carry it. It may help you if something happens to me." Ethan looked at the strange object in his hand. It felt warm, like it was alive. Suddenly, the lights in the house flickered again. Cerise looked up sharply. "They are close." Ethan stood quickly. "What should we do?" "Must move before they track me here," she said. "But I don't want to leave you in danger." "You won't," Ethan said. "I'm coming with you." Cerise looked surprised. "You don't have to do that. This is not your fight." Ethan shook his head. "Protected us for 1,000,000 years. I can help now. Even if I don't understand everything yet." Cerise gave a small smile. It was the kind of smile someone gives when they feel less alone. "Then we leave at dusk," she said. "I must take you to a place hidden deep in the mountains. That's where the first key is." Ethan nodded. "I'll get supplies." As he walked to the back room, Cerise looked around the small house once more. It was warm, peaceful, human. She knew what was coming would not be easy. But for the first time in a long time, she felt hope. The sun was setting behind the hills. Orange and purple colors filled the sky. The air was cold, and the wind moved softly through the trees. Ethan locked his house and looked back one last time. He didn't know when HFY would return. His small, quiet life had changed forever in just one night. Cerise stood beside him, wearing a dark cloak now. Her face was calm, but her eyes kept watching the sky. "They will not come in the day," she said. "But now, night belongs to them." Ethan adjusted his backpack. "Where are we going?" "There's an old place hidden in the mountains," Cerise replied. "I left something there long ago. If we can reach it before they find us, I might be able to protect us." Oh. They got into Ethan's old car and started the drive. The roads were quiet, and the sky grew darker with each mile. As they drove, Ethan asked, "What are these enforcers like?" "They're like me," Cerise said softly, "but they follow the old ways. They believe in control, not kindness. Do not hate humans, but they do not value them." "Will they hurt people?" Ethan asked. "If they must," she said. "But they try not to be seen. They erase quietly, come and go like shadows." Ethan felt nervous. But he also felt something else: responsibility. He had let Cerise into his life. Now he had to stand with her. They reached the forest road and left the car behind. From there, they began walking through the trees. The night was dark, and only Cerise seemed to see clearly. "Do you have powers?" Ethan asked. Cerise nodded. "I can sense life. I can move quickly. I can use light energy. But right now, I'm weak. I haven't fed in a long time." "You mean you haven't taken life energy?" Ethan asked. "Yes," she said. "I promised myself I would never take without permission, and many creatures would not give it." Ethan looked at her. "What happen if you don't feed?" "I will fade," she answered. Like a candle with no flame, they stopped at a quiet clearing. Cerise knelt and touched the ground. "It's here," she said. "Below." She placed her hand on the dirt. A faint blue light appeared around her fingers. The ground began to shift. Slowly, a round metal door rose from the earth, hidden under old leaves and rocks. Ethan stepped back in awe. "What is that?" "A vault," Cerise said. "I buried it before your pyramids were built." The door opened with a soft sound. Inside was a small chamber made of dark metal. It had strange symbols on the walls and soft glowing lights that blinked slowly. Cerise walked in. Ethan followed carefully. In the center of the chamber was a large crystal floating in the air. It gave off a soft white glow. Cerise placed her hand near it, and the crystal pulsed. "It still works," she whispered. She turned to Ethan. "This is a memory crystal. It holds knowledge, maps, and energy. Enough to protect us for a time." Suddenly the lights flickered. Cerise's eyes widened. "They're here." Ethan felt a deep vibration in the ground. A low hum filled the air. "They found us," Cerise said. "We must leave. Now." Before they could move, a strange sound echoed through the forest, a silent flash, like wind with no noise. Then 3 tall shapes appeared at the edge of the trees. They wore silver cloaks and had glowing eyes. Ethan froze. "They look like you," he said. "They are Selenari enforcers," Ceres said. "They've come to take me." One of the figures spoke in a strange language. Ceres replied calmly, but firmly. The words were sharp and fast. Ethan couldn't understand, but the tension in the air was strong. Then Ceres looked at Ethan and said, "Run." Ethan didn't move. "I'm not leaving you. You must," she said. "They will not harm you yet. But if you stay, they will see you as part of this." Ethan grabbed her hand. "I'm staying." Ceres stared at him for a second, then turned to face the others. The air around her shimmered. Her cloak moved without wind. Enforcer stepped forward. A flash of light came from Ceres's hand. It hit the ground in front of them, sending a small shockwave. The enforcers stepped back. Then one of them raised a silver rod. A beam of light shot forward. Ceres pushed Ethan behind her and raised her arm. The beam struck an invisible wall, bursting into small sparks. She was clearly too weak to keep blocking them. Ethan looked around, then saw something on the vault wall. A small panel with a glowing handprint. He remembered the coin she gave him, the memory key. Quickly, he pulled it from his pocket and pressed it to the panel. The wall clicked, and a small device slid out. "What is this?" he shouted. Ceres looked, and her eyes lit up. It's a light shield activator. She reached for it and pressed her fingers into it. A bubble of clear, glowing light formed around. The enforcers hit it again and again, but the shield held. "For now," Ceres said, breathing hard, "but it won't last." Ethan looked at her. "We have to run," Ceres nodded. "There's another vault deep in the northern cave. I can reach it. I might be able to recharge." Together they ran through the forest. Behind them, the enforcers watched but did not follow yet. They had tested Ceres's strength. Now they would return with more. But Ethan didn't care. He was not afraid anymore, because now he believed her. Every word, every story, and he knew one thing for sure. This woman, this ancient being, had watched over Earth for 1,000,000 years. Now it was his turn to protect her. The forest was dark and quiet again. Ethan and Ceres moved quickly through the trees. The moonlight helped a little, but it was Ceres who guided the way. She seemed to know every path, every hidden turn. Her steps were soft, almost like she floated above the ground. Ethan followed her closely. His legs were tired, but he didn't stop. The memory of the glowing eyes and silver cloaks of the enforcers stayed in his mind. "How far is the next vault?" Ethan asked. "Not far," Ceres said. "It is hidden inside a mountain cave. I placed it there centuries ago in case I was ever found." They crossed a small river, the cold water splashing around their boots. The sound of the water was peaceful, but Ethan knew peace wouldn't last. After an hour of climbing rocky paths and hills, they finally reached a large stone wall covered in moss and vines. "This is it," Ceres said. She touched a spot near the base of the wall. Soft blue light appeared, and part of the stone slowly slid open, revealing a narrow entrance. Ethan stared. "It looks like it's been untouched for ages." "It has," Ceres said. "No human eyes have ever seen this place." They stepped inside. The air was cool and dry. The cave was quiet, except for their footsteps. As they walked deeper, small lights in the walls began to glow, sensing Ceres's presence. Finally, they entered a large chamber. In the center was a tall machine shaped like a tree, but made of metal and crystal. It pulsed with a faint, steady light. "This is the heart core," Ceres said. "It connects to the energy I left behind. If I can link with it, I may heal." Ethan looked at the strange machine. "Is it safe?" "Yes," she said, "but I need your help." "Me?" Ethan asked. "I'm just a human." Ceres turned. "To him, you are more than that. You have something I have not seen in a long time: willingness, trust, and heart." Ethan didn't know what to say. He just nodded. Circe walked to the heart core and placed both her hands on its base. A light circle appeared around her feet. The air began to hum gently. Then she looked at Ethan. Place your hand on mine. You must allow me to take just a little of your energy, not your life, just your warmth, only with permission. Ethan stepped forward and placed his hand on top of hers. Do it, he said. A soft light surrounded them both. Ethan felt something pass between them, a gentle pull, like wind, but inside his body. He felt lightheaded but not weak. Cerise stood taller. Her eyes glowed brighter, her skin less pale. After a moment, the light faded. Ethan took a deep breath. That was strange. Cerise smiled gently. You helped me more than you know. Suddenly, the walls of the chamber flashed red. A warning. Sound filled the cave. They found us again, Cerise said, her voice sharp. Ethan turned toward the entrance. How? I thought this place was hidden. They must be tracing the energy I just used, she replied. They're getting smarter. Cerise ran to a side panel and pulled out a flat silver box. This is a star core shield, she explained. If I activate it, the cave will collapse and hide all signs of us. But we must leave quickly. Ethan nodded. Let's move. Before leaving, Cerise placed the box on the ground and pressed a button. The walls glowed, and then the lights dimmed. The cave began to shake. They ran outside just in time. Behind them, the entrance sealed shut. Moments later, it vanished under falling rocks and dirt. They'll think we disappeared, Cerise said. Good, Ethan said, breathing hard. Where now? There is one more place, Cerise said. A beacon I hid on top of a mountain. It can send a signal to old allies beings who may still believe in peace. Ethan looked at her. Are there others like you, who don't want to hurt people? A few, she said, but they are scattered. If they hear my signal, they may come to help. They began walking again. The stars above shone brighter now. Ethan looked up. Do you ever miss your home? He asked. Cerise was quiet for it. Moments sometimes. But Earth has become my home. I've watched it grow. I've watched people laugh, cry, build, and dream. I stayed because your kind reminded me of what life should be. Ethan smiled. That's a big compliment. You earned it, Cerise said. As they walked, Ethan began to ask more questions about her past, about her people, about the stars. Cerise answered with care. She told him stories of great space cities, of creatures made of light, of planets, where music floated in the air. Ethan listened like a child hearing bedtime tales, but he knew these were real. They stopped to rest by a cliff. Below them, city lights blinked far in the distance. Do you ever think Earth will be ready for all this? Ethan asked. One day, Cerise said, but it must come from within. From humans choosing kindness over control, truth over fear. Ethan nodded slowly. I want to believe that. Cerise looked at him. I believe it because of you. Looked away, feeling a little shy. After a while, they continued walking toward the mountain. The path would be long, but they were not alone anymore. Ethan didn't have powers. He didn't understand alien machines. But he had something Cerise hadn't felt in a million years, a human heart willing to fight. Not with weapons, but with care. And that was more powerful than she ever expected. The morning sky was filled with soft white clouds. Light wind moved through the trees as Ethan and Cerise reached the base of the tall mountain. The journey had been long, and both of them were tired, but there was no time to rest. Cerise pointed. Toward the peak. The beacon is there. It's hidden near the rocks at the top. Ethan looked up. The path was steep, and the climb wouldn't be easy. Can we make it before dark? We have to, Cerise said. The enforcers return. Before I send the signal, we may lose our last chance. They began to climb. The trail was narrow and rocky. Ethan used his hands to pull himself up, while Cerise moved quickly. Her body light and balanced like a bird. You really have been alive for a long time, Ethan said, breathing hard. Cerise smiled. A million years teaches you a few things. Halfway up the mountain, they stopped to rest near a large flat rock. Ethan sat down and looked at the world below. Trees, rivers, and small houses dotted the land. It all looked so peaceful. How can people live their lives? Ethan said softly, without knowing what's out there. Sometimes Cerise replied, not knowing is safer. Ethan turned to her. But you stayed. You protected Earth. Why? Cerise looked out into the sky. Because I saw something in your kind hope. Even with war, pain, and mistakes, humans keep dreaming. They keep trying to be better. That is rare in the galaxy. They sat quietly for a moment. Then, without warning, the ground shook slightly. A strange hum filled the air. Ethan stood quickly. They're here again, aren't they? Cerise closed her eyes and listened. Yes, they're above us cloaked. Watching, Ethan said. Why don't they attack? They. Want to see where we're going, Cerise said. They know I'm weak. They're waiting to stop the signal. Ethan looked up into the sky, but he saw nothing. Just clowns. We keep climbing, Cerise said firmly. They moved faster now. The wind grew stronger as they neared the top. Finally, after a hard climb, they reached the summit. The sky above them was wide and clear. At the far end of the peak, hidden between stones, was a strange black box. It had smooth metal and strange marks across its surface. Cerise ran to it. This is the star beacon, she said. If I activate it, a signal will travel faster than light. Will reach my old allies, but I must be quick. Ethan watched her place her hands on the surface. The metal glowed faintly. Symbols moved like water. Suddenly the air shifted. 3 tall shapes appeared from the sky-glowing figures in silver cloaks. They dropped to the ground with no sound. Their eyes were bright and cold. The enforcers had arrived. Ethan stepped in front of Cerise. Even though he had no weapon, no shield, nothing but courage, one of the enforcers raised a hand and spoke in. A strange voice. Cerise replied, still working on the beacon. They are giving me one last chance, she said to Ethan. If I stop now, they will let us go. Ethan looked at her, will you? Cerise shook her head slowly. No, if I stop, Earth stays unprotected. One day others will come stronger, colder, darker. I must send the signal. The enforcers moved forward. Ethan shouted, wait. Just let her finish. One of the enforcers pointed a silver rod at Ethan. A beam of light flashed, but instead of striking him, it stopped in midair. A soft white wall had appeared between them. Cerise had raised her hand. She was using her last energy to protect him. Go, she said. Keep them away while I finish. Ethan grabbed a large stick from the ground and ran in front of the beacon. He waved the stick at the enforcers, even though he knew it would not stop them. But his heart was strong. He didn't run. He didn't hide. The enforcers fired again. The light hit the shield. Cerise fell to one knee, weak but still focused. The beacon glowed brighter now. Sound filled the air like music mixed with wind. It's almost ready, she shouted. One enforcer rushed forward. Ethan stepped into his path. The enforcer didn't strike. He just looked at Ethan with strange, curious eyes. You protect her? The enforcer asked, in perfect English. Ethan nodded. Yes, even though she is not your kind. Ethan took a deep breath.
It.
Better than some humans I know. The enforcer stared at him for a moment, then stepped back. The beacon glowed white, then blue, then gold. A beam of light shot into the sky, straight into space. It's done, Cerise said softly. The signal is sent. She collapsed to the ground, breathing hard. The enforcers stood still. They didn't move. Then one of them stepped forward and said, Your choice is made. We will return later, when your allies come. Then they vanished just like that. Ethan ran to Cerise. Are you okay? She opened her eyes slowly. Yes, just tired. He helped her sit up. That was brave.
You.
So were you, she whispered. You faced them with no powers, no fear. Ethan smiled. I had something they don't, heart. Cerise touched his hand. Thank you. They sat at the top of the mountain, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, someone had heard her call. Help was coming. The stars above were brighter than ever before. The night sky looked calm, but deep in space, the signal had already begun its journey. The beacon had done its job. Ethan sat beside Cerise on the mountaintop. She was weak, but alive. The air was cool and the wind was soft against their faces. Far below, the world continued to move cars on roads. Lights in homes. People who didn't know anything had changed, but something had changed. Will they come soon? Ethan asked quietly. Cerise nodded slowly. They are still out there. If they still believe in peace, they will come. Ethan looked at her and the enforcers. They won't attack again. Not now, she said. They're waiting. They want to see who answers my call. Ethan stayed quiet for a while. Then he asked the question that had been on his mind for days. What happens next? Cerise looked up at the stars. We wait, and we prepare. If help comes, Earth might be protected for many years. But if it doesn't, she stopped, and her eyes became sad. Then I will protect this world alone, as I always have. Ethan turned to her. You don't have to be. Alone anymore? She looked at him. Her face softened. You say that now, she said gently. But I will live far longer than you. 100 human lives will pass before I change. Ethan smiled a little. Then you'll just have to enjoy the one life you have now with me. Cerise blinked. For someone who had lived 1,000,000 years, it was the first time in ages that someone had made her speechless. I don't have powers, Ethan added. I don't have special knowledge, but I can stand beside you. I can be your friend. Maybe more, if you let me. She looked into his eyes. You were different, Ethan. Truly. They spent the rest of the night talking about stars, about Earth, about little things like books, food, and music. Cerise laughed softly for the first time. It was a quiet sound, but full of life. When the sun began to rise, they started walking. Back down the mountain, weeks passed. Cerise and Ethan returned to a small cabin near the woods. It was far from cities, quiet and peaceful. Cerise began to recover slowly. She spent time in the sun, learning to enjoy Earth's beauty in a new way. She no longer needed to hide every moment. Ethan planted a garden, cooked meals, and taught Cerise how to play the piano. She didn't need to sleep, but sometimes she would sit by the window at night, listening to the wind, thinking of distant worlds. One day, as they sat outside watching the sky, Ethan asked, What if they never come? The ones you called? Cerise smiled. Then this world will still be safe, because you reminded me how to hope again. Suddenly, a flash appeared in the sky, not a falling star, but a shape, bright and moving slowly. Cerise stood up. That's not a comet, she said. The light grew larger, then stopped above the trees. A soft hum filled the air. Then a small ship, silver and smooth, came down gently and landed nearby. Ethan stepped back, holding Cerise's hand. The door of the ship opened. Out came to being tall and light-skinned, with kind eyes. They wore soft robes and had no weapons. They looked at Cerise with respect. Cerise took a step forward. I am Cerise of the Selenari, she said. I called for help. One of the visitors bowed his head. We heard your voice. You are not forgotten. Cerise looked at Ethan, then back at them. This world must be protected. Its people are not perfect, but they are growing. They must be allowed to become something greater. The visitors nodded. We agree, and we will help. But only if the humans wish for peace, not power. Ethan stepped forward. We'll do our best. I can't speak for the whole world, but I can promise you there are people worth saving here. The visitors smiled. We believe you, they said. They gave Cerise a small crystalla, sign of trust, and a tool for communication. Then they left quietly, rising into the sky like a dream. Ethan and Cerise stood side by side watching the ship disappear into the clouds. Is it over now? Ethan asked. It's just the beginning, Cerise replied. But now we are not. Alone, from that day on, Cerise no longer lived in the shadows. She lived quietly, but with joy. She no longer watched the world from a distance, she walked in it. She laughed, she learned, and she loved. As the years passed, Ethan grew older. His hair turned gray, and his hands grew slower. But Cerise stayed by his side. She never left him, not even once. on a quiet evening, as the stars shone bright above. Ethan sat in a chair near the garden, holding her hand. "You'll keep protecting Earth after I'm gone, won't you?" he asked. Cerise nodded, tears in her eyes. "Yes, because of you." Ethan smiled one last time. "Then I'll always be with you." When his time came, Cerise did not cry loudly. She simply sat with him through the night, holding his hand until the sun rose. Then she stood, looked at the sky and whispered, "I promise." And for the rest of her long, long life she kept that promise.